I want to talk to you about 3 branding strategies that actually are for those who want to come out of this alive. So the first one has to do with expectations. The second one has to do with really importance of storytelling. And the third one has to do with the power of ideas. The first one is this. It has to do with expectations, and not only meeting expectations, but exceeding expectations as your benchmark. Because if you're not exceeding them, you're simply meeting them. And trust me, all your competition will be also meeting expectations. So if you're going to be just one of the many who are meeting expectations, that will become your next problem. Here's what I have to say about that.
Expectation. It's the devil. The same devil that's in the details. Yet when one sees a brand, one that rises above the noise and clamor, we wonder, how did they do that? What insights did they have that the rest of us missed? It comes down to something special. Skills. Skills we discover in inspired leadership, plus an unusual attention to details, and an ability to see where things intersect, and how to transform those intersections into something new, something inspired, something beyond expectation. So why do some of us fail in exceeding expectation? The problem lies in doing what's expected, whereas it's the unexpected that lies in those details, that anticipates our next need. That leaves us wondering, how did they know that? Only then do we excel, which itself is the foundation of excellence. This expected is what we learned yesterday. Yet it's the unexpected that gives each of us and our brands our tomorrow.
So you see, the power of meeting expectations is the fact that expectations are great, because once you know what is acceptable, you can now estimate what will be remarkable. That benchmark of what's acceptable becomes not your finishing line, but actually becomes your starting line. And that gives you a definitive advantage. The next point has to do with the power of storytelling. You have to tell your story. You have to tell a story in a way that's engaging, that's memorable, that's unforgettable. Because if you do not tell stories, you're basically just offering features. You're basically offering, well, there's this package, or there's that package, or blah, 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 blah. Stories are what connect us. Stories are the strand that really connect you and me on a humane level. And here's what I have to say about that.
It's an important point for every brand to realize. If you don't give the market the story to talk about, they'll define your brand story for you. And it won't be the story you want. Never is. The key point is to realize everything starts with a story. Every brand, all the time. There are 11 key milestones that make the difference with every brand. The first one, get your story in order. That's the beginning of it all. So you have to own the fact that you have a story. The second thing is, don't tell the same story everyone else is telling. Then you just blend in. A key point to understand is to think of your story as your house. Like any house, your story needs a welcome mat. You need to be your customer's best friend in attitude, in manner, in everything from the first point of contact onward. That's the way it works in this world. Then, every story needs a nice paint job. You need to look like the leader that you aspire to be. You need to use design to its fullest capabilities. Design isn't merely cosmetic, it's a reflection of what lies beneath when you scratch the surface. Every story needs art on the walls. This is your brand's visual identity. It's taking design, it's taking color, it's taking imagery, it's taking everything that people will know you by so that it has recognition, it has distinction, it has differentiation, and it freaking looks great. Every story needs a winner and a loser. Be the winner. And then by being the winner, make sure that you define the loser. If you don't, the loser will define you through misleading ideas, false implications, and generalized concepts. This happens every hour of every day. Don't let the marketplace define you by your own negligence in putting this in place. Every story must have a clear difference. Without that difference, you're perceived as the same. Being seen as the same commands no value, no benefit, no compelling reason for your guests to stick around and enjoy the refreshments and come back for more. Next, your story needs someplace to entertain your guests. And it needs someplace that your customers enjoy being and visiting, whether it's a physical location or an online presence. It needs to be someplace that doesn't cause friction, that is pleasant, that actually makes things easier, and ideally makes things better than if you weren't there. So once you've established some place to entertain your guests, your customers, your followers, your tribe, your story needs different places to congregate for the different guests you have. Not all your guests are going to be the same. So realize that and make it so that those people truly feel recognized. And lastly, your story requires maintenance to remain fresh. This includes routine cleaning, fresh flowers, soft linen, tasty food, and constant improvement. You never want to get complacent with your brand and never rely on old achievements. You always want to maintain your design difference, your story difference, your service difference. All of those points of difference add up to value. By doing that, you'll be tackling the 11 things that matter. And that is something none of us can live without.
At this point, your mind is probably going, wow, there's a lot of story that I can actually be telling, which you're right, there is. And you need to tell it in a way that's engaging and unforgettable and distinct. You have to use distinction and differentiation, otherwise you will blend in. Blending in or standing out, those are your two options. There isn't sort of, I'm sort of standing out. No, you're either blending in or you're standing out. So you need to be very passionate and intentional and relentless. And perfecting your story. Perfect it, perfect it, perfect it. Don't wait till it's perfect. But start getting it out there and perfect it all the time. Which leads me to this last particular segment that I want to really punch up for you. The power of ideas. The power of ideas is what will drive everything. So whether we're talking about expectations or we're talking about storytelling, it's the power of ideas and knowing how to use those to really drive your mission forward. So here's what I have to say about the power of ideas.
The power of ideas. They can make us smile. They can make us cry. They can inspire action. They can conquer defeat. They can launch a movement or stop us in our tracks. Sometimes they're big. Sometimes they're small.
They can make us just do it, or make us think different, or feel the infatuation of youth, or make us as stubborn as a mule. Yet their only power lies in us. As branders, we live to usher in the future, not stroke the past. While it might ruffle some feathers, it often can advance culture. But whether it's a life, or a brand, or an inspiration, it comes down to an idea, which then ripples to agitate more ideas. We call this ROI, Return on Ingenuity. And this ingenuity is what separates the remarkable from the commodity, or the disruptor from the also-ran. But there's a trap to avoid: success and failure. We must realize neither success nor failure is permanent. They are themselves fleeting and transient. It's because the biggest mistake occurs when we stop at either of these points. If we succeed and stop, we've lost, because any forward momentum will shrivel up, since its source of power, us, is no longer feeding it with life, dreams, goals, and energy. If, on the other hand, we ran into an obstacle and stopped, a little hiccup becomes the end of a dream. So it's stopping that is the culprit. So when introducing ideas into the world, remember this: stopping is never the right option, and is, in fact, the only thing that can ever defeat us in branding, in creating, in life.
I hope you found these 3 segments important and helpful in carving out your distinction and how you're going to stand out going forward. I can guarantee anytime you've been successful in the past, it's been due to having these 3 points in place. Going forward, any success you're going to have will correspond to how well you get these 3 points in for your business, your career, and your industry. I'm David Brier. Thank you for watching. Let's stay connected.